Okay, and here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Friday, last Friday of September. Hope you had a great week, ready for the weekend. Weekend full of sports action coming up. College football, of course, on the docket. Lots of other things to get to. Plenty of guests on tap today. The great Bob Kravitz will join us. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, as well as Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload, talk football and basketball. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star as well. And appreciate everybody else jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, following along. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get more to your door. And the Wild Food Group and family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington and Bedford area. Great places like Chop Shop Market and Table, where each Wednesday at 7:05 you can find Inside Indiana Football with Don Fisher and head coach Tom Allen. And the basketball coaches show will soon be following. That's usually on Mondays. I'm assuming that'll stay the same, but we'll see. We shall see. How's everybody doing? College football, a full round of games on tap this week in Indiana, of course. Traveling to Maryland. I believe Purdue is at home to Illinois. Both desperately need a win. Which team is, and one of the questions when Travis joins us, I'm like, what's the worst team in the Big Ten right now, do you think? Because you have your options, many, many options. I've never seen the Big Ten so bad. I mean, it's bad. I mean, we have to be honest. The Big Ten West is just hot garbage. I mean, absolutely hot garbage. There's not a good team over there. Wisconsin's the best of that group, and they're an average team. So if your best is average, that's bad. Iowa just got smoked 31-0 at Penn State. Of course, Penn State, one of the top teams in the country. But if you're a decent team, you shouldn't be getting smoked 31-0. But they did. I don't know who the worst team in the Big Ten is right now. I'm going to be honest. There's going to be some teams playing for that dishonor, I think. Two of them are playing this weekend with Purdue and Illinois. That will kind of separate one of those two and put the other one exactly where we think they are. Maryland is not one of those teams. They're a middling team. They're probably going to go to a bowl game. And that's going to be a challenging game this weekend for Indiana. Very, very challenging. How's everybody doing on the Andy Moore Honda hotline? Fred, of course, jumping on from Easton. Gary, down in New Albany. Kent up in Mount Pleasant. Tony V in Whitehall, Michigan. Of course, some far reaches of southern Brown County. John. Scott DMD. Down in Owensboro, Kentucky. Appreciate you, sir. Rudy the Boxer. Sean. Yep. Bob is, I love Bob. Sean says the worst team is Northwestern and Indiana battle to the death in an 0-0 4 overtime game. Well, we'll see about that. Did Northwestern come back on Minnesota in the fourth quarter? Weren't they down like 30? It wasn't 34-10, was it? But it was, wasn't that Northwestern that did that? So, hey, they get credit for that, man. They're elevated out of that deal. Yep, Philip pointing out that the USFL and the XFL are merging. Probably the smartest thing, because when you have two leagues that very few people care about, man, you can bring it together. Some big news as well, I think. At Indy, NASCAR is coming. Well, it's not coming back. NASCAR, the Brickyard, is coming back to Indy. Next year, they return to the Oval. And I think the drivers are more excited about that. It's a weird track for a NASCAR race. Very unusual, because NASCAR races are used to tracks that have some banking in the corners. And Indy does not. It's like 9 degrees in each turn. But they are returning to the Oval, celebrating the 30th. Can you believe this? 30th anniversary of NASCAR at Indy. It's hard to believe it's been that long. Of course, Jeff Gordon, back in 94, won the first edition of the Brickyard. First of his 5 wins, I think. So we'll be looking forward to that. College football pick'em. We got to pull that up. See who's doing what, baby. Who's doing well? Well, we know who's doing well. We have a current leader. Is that Mr. Jones, who I saw last night? But they got a lot of guys that are up toward the top, close together. Oh, I'm not one of them after my 5-5 week 2 weeks ago. Oh, that still just drives me insane. It just takes one bad week. But the good thing is it's still a long season, so we got time to come back, baby. I have confidence. I'm 28-12 right now. That's an 88.2% win percentage. This week, the games on the docket. Florida at Kentucky. That's a tough pick right off the bat, man. Then you have Clemson at Syracuse. That's not so tough for me. The Aggies, Texas A&M, going to Arkansas. That's tough. Texas A&M have not been beating, and by I say beating, I mean putting it on anybody. And they've got Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino. Crazy. Kane Womack's South Alabama Jaguars travel to James Madison to take on the Dukes. South Florida Bulls go to Navy. I wonder if they go pick them up in a boat. Boise State Broncos travel to Memphis to get some barbecue and some blues music. Will that distract them in the game? LSU traveling to Ole Miss, who I noticed just lost a tight end. There's some stuff going on down there with Lane. There's also a student that is, or a former player that is, I think, suing Lane Kiffin in the school over maybe I don't know why. I mean, I can tell you that the reasons listed are, but how true half of that stuff is, we never know. The Trojans travel to Georgia State. That's a pick. Here is a tough pick. Notre Dame goes to Duke. Notre Dame is a favorite right here. Is Duke not getting the credit they deserve? Is Notre Dame being blown up? I think that they are. I think Duke might be the better team. I don't know how good Ohio State and Notre Dame actually are behind the names. So Michigan and Penn State are without question to me the two best teams in the Big Ten. I think that there's a gap between them and Ohio State without question. So, but I think this Duke Notre Dame game will give us a better idea on the Irish for certain. And West Virginia at TCU is the last game in the pick'em. Make sure you get those in. Duke has looked good, man. They've looked solid. This will be can you imagine this on their resume? Because this is also down in Durham, having beat Clemson and Notre Dame in the same year at Duke. This is football we're talking about, people. But they have a shot to beat Clemson and Notre Dame in the same season. And I don't remember what Clemson was ranked, but Notre Dame is certainly ranked. The Ryder Cup underway, USA trailing already. The Lions take care of the Packers last night, 34-20. Here's a cool story. You remember the late hit, a horrible, dirty hit Henry Blackburn from Colorado State put on Colorado's Travis Hunter back in that game. But those two have made peace and went bowling together, which is a very cool thing. And you've got to, I don't like to do a lot of Dion stories because it's like Dion Lash, but he has really been behind that and came out and said, hey, man, y'all got to stop with these threats and blah, blah, blah. So a great way to handle that. Great way to handle that. Of course, everybody waiting on recruiting information for Indiana basketball. Liam McNeely at the top of that list, but he's not alone. There are others in Indiana waiting on to hear, and that's the scary part. I fully expect Indiana to land Liam McNeely, but that doesn't mean what I feel doesn't mean squat, because everything can always change. But I still think that they get Liam McNeely. Now, does that help land Derek Queen? I don't know. But he has a Maryland lean. So I'm not sure that Indiana could land him. But they still have to land. They can't just get Liam McNeely. To me, for this to be a successful class, you cannot just land one guy. Boogie Fland is a guy that adds to that. And we'll certainly see. We've got to take a break. Up next, the great Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. We will be back with that and much more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thanks a lot for joining us. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Bob. When
Hey,
Jim
man, how you doing?
doing all right? How are you?
Good, good.
When Jim gets back, we'll go live.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, John, whose eye you got this weekend?
It is Maryland.
Maryland. Okay, at Maryland.
Tungavailoa.
At Maryland.
At Maryland, baby.
Okay.
All right, guys. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Hope you've had a great week and a great September because it's about over, baby. We've got Bob Kravitz here with us from bobkravitz.substack.com. Flows out like just beautiful, like a beautiful wine now.
yeah, beautiful wine. Is it too early to have a little wine?
Never too early. Little of the sacrament. Little of the sacrament.
Sacrament, yes, absolutely. I'm a religious guy, as you know. So,
oh man, I think I'm about to go on the pup list. By the way, Bob.
well, what you do now?
No, it's the knee, man. The knee's going. But someone who's not going to be on the pup list is Mr. Jonathan Taylor, and with the performance of Mr. Moss, what's going to happen with the Colts? What are they going to do with this situation?
It's going to get really interesting now because, like you say, he comes off the pup list on Monday, and he's got to make a decision. Does he put a uniform back on and play for the Colts, or does he start getting fined game checks? We're talking $240,000 per game. And whatever other fines they may throw at him for conduct detrimental to the program or to the team. So, Monday is going to be a really big day for the Colts. I think he's going to refuse to play. I think it's going to get uglier before it gets better. And this whole idea that, they got Zach Moss. Keep in mind, Zach Moss is playing as well as he's ever played in his career. He's averaging 4.4 yards per carry, which is decent. But JT, in a down year last year where he had multiple injuries and played behind an offensive line that was completely lost, averaged 4.5. So his worst was better than Zach Moss's best. So this idea that Zach Moss can fill the bill, no, he can't. JT is a far superior running back, a home run hitter, a guy who could take it to the house from any spot on the field. You don't get that with Zach Moss. He's played well. Can't argue with the production, but he ain't no JT.
No, but they have done a surprising job with having their quarterback go out and then having Gardner, the mustache, come in and play so well. And now they're surprisingly at the top of the division for the first time in 4 years. Is that right?
I think it goes back further than that, actually. No, you're right. 2019. At one point, they were in first place. But, historically, they've always gotten off to really slow starts. So this is very gratifying for their organization. They've played better than I thought they would. I still think they've got a losing streak in them. Again, Peyton was 3-13 his rookie year. Let's see what we got with Anthony Richardson, a guy who, again, played just 13 games in college as opposed to Peyton playing 45. So I'm not ready to start, figuring out who they'll play in the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Can't
resist. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And how this team manages all of this going forward, because they have a team that looks like they can win the games they're supposed to win, and maybe win a game that they're not supposed to win. I'm not sure, but
you're more bullish on them than I am, Jim. I still think they've got a long losing streak in them. I still think you're trying to make a go of it with a rookie quarterback with very little experience. But defensively, they've been better than I thought they would be last year. You remember they were okay until the fourth quarter of every game, and then they got shelled in the fourth quarter. They were the worst defensive team in the fourth quarter, gave up more points in the fourth quarter than anybody else in the National Football League. They've been competitive in all these games, and they've been much better. Zaire Franklin is playing like a pro, like an all pro. DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebikam has come in here and done a nice job. Kwity Paye. I think Leonard is starting to come around. So defensively, they've been quite good. And Juju Brents showed out his first game as an active player, and that's a good sign.
I support anyone named Juju.
Absolutely.
I love the name, whether it's Juju Smith, Juju, it doesn't matter. I love Juju. It's always good to have good Juju.
It's good. It's important to have good Juju.
Exactly. College football this weekend, of course, more games on the slate. Indiana, of course, playing at Maryland, which that involves playing against Tonga Vailoa.
You just like saying the name.
Because I can say it correctly, baby.
I know. Absolutely.
It only took us all what, 4 years of having his older brother, so we could practice for 4 years to get it right.
Exactly. That's a game that, look, I don't think IU is going to win it, but would you say that's a winnable game
for Indiana? No,
probably not.
I don't think so, because I don't have the confidence in decision making at critical times.
Right.
But I also don't. Their defense is going to be tested more than they have been at all this year, and that includes the Ohio State game. And I know that sounds stupid with Ohio State having two of the best wide receivers in the country, but they weren't good that game. They were rusty. Their quarterback was rusty.
Right.
McCord is not who he is now. Those few games back, they weren't that good. But Maryland you've got in Tonga Vailoa, you've got a veteran. I was looking yesterday at their stats, and it's not that they're staggering, but it's the breadth of them. He's got so many different guys that he throws the ball to. They have and you look at the yardage. Indiana does not have a single rusher that has even hit 200 yards on this season, and Maryland has two, and they're a passing team.
And yet IU seems to think, or at least Walt Bell seems to think, they are a run-first team. They haven't run the ball well since he's been here.
No, they're averaging 3.2 yards per carry.
Yeah, that's not good. That's Trent Richardson type numbers.
Yeah, they're Jalen Lucas is the top runner, of course. He gets the ball the most touches. He's had 42 carries. He's averaging 4.4 yards a carry, but that's kind of, I don't want to say it's misleading, but he's not your typical running back.
No, you're using him on jet sweeps, and he's not the guy who's going between the tackles. So, they are an offense that has no identity.
In search of an identity is exactly what I was going to say.
I mean, they continue to insist they're a running team. They're not. They need better play from Taven. Clearly, I mean, you think back to the game last week where you had Jalen Lucas wide open. I think it was Jalen Lucas, and he missed him and threw it elsewhere for an incompletion. He's got to be better. Walt Bell's got to be better. I really wonder how long Walt Bell is gonna stick around here in Bloomington.
Well, here's the thing, though. If he makes it through the season next year, would you? How hard would it be for Indiana to bring in a new offensive coordinator in a year that it could be considered a lame duck season? I'm not saying it is or will be, but the possibility is there.
Well, I mean, look, Tom Allen's going to go into next year knowing he's got to get it done. And he's going to be desperate, and he's going to go out and get somebody who can turn this thing around, who he thinks can turn this thing around, because Walt Bell ain't it right now.
No, and neither was Nick Sheridan, and neither was Mike DeBoard. And that's an issue. The success of bringing in offensive coordinators, he had a grand slam with Kalen DeBoer, but the other three have just been pop flies out. I mean, the strikeouts really.
Right.
But getting somebody to come in is going to be the hard part.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, he's going to have to think outside the box. He's going to have to go get some young, smart offensive coordinator. So, I don't know what they do, but clearly he's going to have to make a change for next season.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Basketball recruiting, I know that's not something you're following right now, but it is coming down to some very, very important decisions for Indiana, especially. They are in the final two, apparently, with Liam McNeely, they're battling Kansas again with him. You've got Boogie Fland, who is now 3 schools. That was down to 2, believed to have been down to Kentucky and Indiana. And now Nate Oates has done a hell of a job and made a late push and got Alabama into this deal. And he just signed a kid yesterday I talked about. I forget, a big dude. Aiden Sherrill, number 22 player in the country, 6'10", averaged 19 and 9 and for overtime elite. So that is not going to hurt his cause either. And for him to have made that push, that says a lot. Now he has I'm sure he has a lot of relationships up in the Northeast, because he was at Buffalo and he did the same thing at Buffalo.
Yeah.
Before he shuffled off.
He's a hell of a coach, that guy. That was a really good hire by Alabama. But I saw where Bill Self just had an in-home visit with McNeely.
Yep.
I'm on my Twitter, and all the Twitter folks are freaking out. Oh my God, he's stepping in. He's going out. Hey, welcome to recruiting. I'm just glad that Mike Woodson is at the table with these guys, and that they're, I mean, look, if he doesn't come to Indiana, it's going to suck. It's going to be a bummer, all that stuff. But the fact that Mike Woodson is recruiting nationally and going out and getting the best players, or at least trying to, is a really good sign for the future of this program.
Oh, absolutely. They are in the finals with multiple top players, top 30 players. Landing them, now that's the key. And there's a lot of pressure on Mike to land. I think you've got to hit 2 home run recruits in this class. They have zero signed right now. But right. Alabama didn't have a signee until they got Aiden Sherrill yesterday.
Right. Yeah, I'm not so worried about the time element. It's just a matter of getting the right people. And it's funny, you look at Indiana and Purdue and how differently they go about, the recruiting process. I mean, Purdue, is more like old Indiana. They like their local kids. They bring in certain types of players, certain types of people. I see that, it appears to me that Indiana is just going for the best around the country. I remember when Archie Miller said we're going to build a wall around Indiana and or build a fence and nobody's going to leave, and that didn't work out so well. So no,
he didn't let anybody in.
Yeah, right. Uh, so I think it's a good thing for IU. You're a national brand, despite the last 20 years, but you're still a national brand, and you got to recruit that way.
Absolutely. Boogie Fland, one of those that I mentioned, canceling a visit to Maryland, which is big. Derek Queen, who is kind of considered a Maryland lean. It's just going to be interesting to see when this starts happening, because it's going to start happening without question at some point. And does that lead to others falling? I don't know today how much somebody committing has on anybody else committing, because everybody has their own deal going.
Right, and there's the shoe situation, NIL. There's so many elements that are involved in the recruiting process that weren't necessarily a big deal years ago.
Absolutely. You've got your NIL deal signed, right?
Yes, for golf clubs, and yes, I'm an NIL guy.
Yeah. Who is the worst? First of all, is this the worst you have ever seen the Big Ten in football as a whole than they are right now? The Big Ten West is hot garbage.
Yes.
And then you've got Indiana and Rutgers. I'm going to give Maryland a half a break. And Michigan State, hot garbage. So that's a lot of bad teams. I mean, the West is just awful. It's gross. It's so bad that they should really consider not showing their games on TV.
Well, they kind of aren't. They're showing the Purdue. I asked my wife last night. I said, "Did we get Peacock?" No. So I guess I won't be following the Purdue game. I guess I could drive up there, but that's a pain in the ass.
For the Illinois game, yeah, that's going to be like a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the fall off of Illinois. Last year, Brett Bielema comes in. They have a rough start losing to Indiana, but then go on a big win streak. And I'm thinking, oh man, boy, he's going to have a shot over there in that division.
No, not so much. Well, maybe they're missing Walters.
Is going to end up.
I mean, they may very well be missing Walters more than we think. I mean, I still think Purdue is going to have a decent season. They remember last year they lost a couple of games early in very creative ways, like the game against Syracuse. And then they went on a nice streak and finished, I believe, 8-4 and reached a bowl game. I have a feeling the same sort of thing is going to play out again here this year. I think they're going to start getting hot. I think they're a better team than Indiana, which isn't saying a whole hell of a lot. But I still think Purdue's got a chance to get to that 6-win mark or better and get to a bowl game.
Absolutely, probably do. What's up next for you, sir?
Well, I got I wrote about Jonathan Taylor yesterday.
Yep, saw that.
I've got the Colts on Sunday, Dopey report card on Monday, and also Monday is Pacers Media Day. My guess is that Buddy Hield will be a big subject because he's in a position where he's probably going to be traded. So we'll see where that goes. So I got some stuff coming up.
Make sure you are following Bob Kravitz at .substack.com.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you, sir. Hey, we've got more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us, and we'll continue our talk on the Big Ten football and more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Are you wearing a Purdue jacket?
No, it's just a Purdue
The Purdue
polo.
Purdue something?
Yeah. Maybe it'll change things up. It's still got it actually has the Rose Bowl logo in it. I've had it.
I see that. Man, your sound was great until you lifted your jacket up, and I don't know what happened.
Is it better now or what happened?
No, I don't know. It was fine.
What the heck? I don't know. Let me take the headphones out then. Or is this better now?
And we'll try
There you go. You're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's weird, man.
I know. Yeah, we don't ever wear school stuff. As a matter of fact, I don't even own any. Well,
Don't look in my closet then.
I used to, but because I had gotten out of the media and I'd had stuff from growing up, but then when you get back into it, it's yeah. So I was just talking. I've never seen a worse Big Ten in my life than they
Oh, the
are
West
this
is
year.
terrible.
Oh, the West is
I
hot
think
garbage, but you've also got some hot garbage on the other side.
Hey, we can go live for this if you want. So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, baby. Welcome to the weekend. Appreciate you being with us here on this September 28th, the last Friday of September, when September ends. Yeah, what's who sings that?
Green Day.
Green Day, yeah.
It's Green Day.
See, you don't understand. I don't worry, brother. When you're on long enough, you will see I will bust out in song at any time. I don't care. I know I can't sing. I don't care. Dangerous putting me in front of a microphone. But you couldn't get me to karaoke if you paid me. That's the funny
Oh no,
thing.
not me. Not me either, man.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the studio in front of the cameras, and that I don't care about. It was just like when I was a sports anchor. People are like, "Oh, did you get nervous?" I'm like, "Nah." I was like, "Watch, it's me and the camera." Now you know that you're on. That is always in your mind, but there's somebody there, so it's like, And so I guess that's why I allow myself to do things I normally wouldn't do, but. Welcome aboard, Travis. Travis, of course, with the Boiler Upload for any Boiler fans. And the last game of the year could potentially be the toilet bowl.
I think you're going to get a lot of those.
We're getting one this weekend, I think, between Purdue and Illinois, which was surprising to me on both sides. I thought Purdue was going to be better, but maybe that's not fair. I'm not covering them as close enough as I should do as like you are. So I'm not, don't know all the ins and outs. And with the new staff, that is definitely usually has an impact, although Brett Bielema was able to get past that last year. So I thought Illinois was going to be way better than they are this year. And man, have they fallen off. So I'm like, whoo. And Minnesota, who I thought was okay, maybe they give up a fourth quarter lead to Northwestern. Iowa gets obliterated 31-0 by a very, very good Penn State team. And then you've got Luke Fickell, who is just trying to saunter along. And I don't know they're kind of a middling team, but it's going to be wild to see how many bad teams there are in the Big Ten this year. It's mind-boggling. And then because then you look at the Pac-12 on how damn many good teams there are in that league. It's nuts. 4 out of the top 6 quarterbacks are in the Pac-12. It's crazy, but it's fun. I don't mind it. I'm here for the craziness.
I mean, somebody's going to win these games. They're contractually obligated to win these games, honestly. So, but the way you speak is kind of what's giving me a little bit of hope for Purdue. I'm not writing off a bowl game at this point, mostly because the rest of the Big Ten West is pretty much trash. I was hoping for a better performance against Wisconsin, but it ended up being your typical Purdue-Wisconsin game of they ran all over Purdue. That's happened for 2 decades. So until Purdue was able to change that and stop getting dominated up front on the lines, which is exactly what happened last Friday night, that resolve is not going to change. I would be absolutely stunned if Purdue beat Ohio State or Michigan. Maybe they've got a slightly better chance against Ohio State because it's at home and they've got the weird voodoo hex over Ohio State in Ross-Ade Stadium. But then you look at the other, the remaining 5 games, or 6 games, excuse me, and okay, can they beat an Illinois team that hasn't been very impressive? Yeah. Can they beat an Iowa team that is inert? Yeah. You mentioned Minnesota. I mean, I did not expect Minnesota to blow a 3-touchdown lead to Northwestern. Nebraska hasn't looked good. Northwestern hasn't looked good. Indiana hasn't looked good. Yeah, Purdue's got to win 5 of those 6 now, but each game individually, I would not be shocked to see Purdue win them. And that's starting at tomorrow against an Illinois team that struggles against the run. Their defense is just as bad as Purdue's defense has been so far. And Purdue's got them at home. Who knows what's going to happen there? I think it's about as even of a game as you can possibly have. If you look at the Stats of War card that they posted this week on at Stats of War on Twitter, it was just dead even in almost every single category. I think they gave Illinois a 50.1 to 49.9 advantage.
This week's schedule, you mentioned Purdue is hosting the Illini. That's all right. First of all, that's a must-win game for both of those teams.
Yes, I think so too. If you're going to go to a bowl game, yeah, it's got to be a win for either one. Illinois might have a slightly more bit of leeway just because they've won 2 of their non-conference games and Purdue only won 1. But I agree with you. For Purdue, it's must-win. Otherwise, there's probably not any chance of the postseason.
I was trying to pull up the spread. What's the spread on that game? It's got to be like a point and a half.
I think Illinois is a 1-point favorite, but I think Purdue has been a 1-point favorite this week. So it's a pick 'em, really.
Mind-boggling. Penn State will travel to Northwestern, so that should just be a demolition. Minnesota is hosting Louisiana to finish off their non-conference schedule. Michigan travels to Nebraska. Should be a pedestrian day for the Wolverines, expecting. Indiana going to Maryland. We'll come back to that one. Illinois at Purdue, we just talked about. Rutgers hosts Wagner to finish out their non-con schedule. And then Iowa is hosting Michigan State. That should be an easy 14-7 win for Iowa if they can score 14 points. I laugh because 6. They're a 14-point favorite, and I'm like, so you're expecting Iowa to score 14 points?
Their defense might score 14.
That's true, but nothing really enticing on the slate this week. It's not a beautiful offering, but just kind of the rest of half the non-con games and then some mismatch things. I cannot believe how weak the Big Ten Conference is as a whole. Wow, thank you. I didn't realize that, Philip. I didn't realize this was his 3rd year there. That makes it even worse. You've got Penn State and Michigan, and then there's a drop to Ohio State, in my opinion. And then it's like the garbage men coming by. It's god awful, and I can't believe it. Then you look out at the Pac-12 and you're like, wow. But ironically, if this were next year, the Big Ten would have 6 of the top 10 teams right now on the top 20.
And that's unfortunate because the Pac-12 needs to stay the Pac-12. I keep hoping that somebody wakes up and is like, all right, we're going to keep this together at the 11th hour. We're not USC, UCLA to the Big Ten, Oregon, Washington to the Big Ten, not going to happen. But, that's stuff that's outside of my control. I think it's ridiculous that this is happening. And I'm just trying to enjoy the last season of Big Ten football while we can still play teams that we played for over a century, really. And just try and have some fun with it. Yeah, the West isn't great. Yeah, there's not some good teams in the East. Michigan State certainly looks like a dead team walking right now. But look, just enjoy it for the regional rivalries that we have while we've got it. And this weekend is a trophy game for Purdue. They have the Purdue Cannon. It's been a pretty close series of late. I believe Purdue now has a 2-game lead in the all-time series, which when you've played each other over 100 times and you're only separated by 2 games, that means they're going to, usually be pretty entertaining games against each other. And you mentioned the whole slate for the Big Ten this week. I think Purdue, Illinois is probably going to be the most exciting game. I mean, is it going to be the best football? No, but you're going to see some points on the board. Neither team's defense is that great so far. So, all right, you're going to see some points. You might get a 38-31 game, and that'd be kind of fun.
Yes, it would be, but I definitely want to see the Big Ten back to being, good, where the marginal teams were tough. Where it's like, oh, okay, well, here's the really good teams, but they've got to play some of these teams that could still knock them off. That does not exist right now. I don't know of anybody, and that may not be the right example. All right, I'm going to take Michigan and Penn State out because they're too far ahead of anybody else in the league. Ohio State. Is there anybody in the league that can upset Ohio State? Because they're not in the same class as Penn State and Michigan right now.
I don't know. I don't think so, just because they've got that talent advantage. Again, you look at their game at Purdue here in a few weeks. I'm not saying Purdue is going to win by any means at all, but Purdue has a strange hex over them in West Lafayette. I can't explain it. Nobody else can. You have Ohio State
fans. Whatever you can use, baby. Whatever you can use.
I've had Ohio State fans talk to me, and they're like, we do not like coming there because for whatever reason they struggle. Purdue is 5-3 against them in West Lafayette since 2000. And one of those 3 losses was with Darrell Hazel in a game that wasn't even, I think it was 56-0, and it wasn't even that close. I mean, Purdue has had upset after upset against them. They nearly knocked them off the year that Ohio State won the national championship in 2002. I didn't expect to beat them by 4 touchdowns the last time that they came to West Lafayette. So who knows what's going to happen in that game? I mean, crazy stuff happens. Purdue is much more competitive against them. You just never know. I mean, I don't expect to win. I don't honestly expect it to be close just because they've got such a talent discrepancy, and I have no idea who is going to cover Marvin Harrison Jr., but you just never know. Something weird might happen.
I can't cover him. I would have before. I'd have got in there before, but no more. It's over. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, those guys, Indiana was lucky to catch them when they did, but Indiana was not where they were to really have a shot at that. But if Ohio State had played anybody else in their first game, legit, they might have lost their opener. I believe that they were not game ready. They were. McCord is playing much better, but I'm sure you saw, or at least parts of the Notre Dame Ohio State game. I still don't know how good either of those teams are. It was a great game, but that doesn't make those teams really good. And they had a great 2-minute offense at the end, but I still don't know how good they are overall.
And that's just how it is sometimes. And honestly, if you can just kind of slop your way through early in the season and keep winning, so be it. I mean, you saw the 2002 Ohio State team. They didn't blow anybody out. They could have lost about 5 games and they went undefeated. So, I'm an advocate of winning is winning. And that's from somebody who's watched a lot of Big Ten basketball and has seen Purdue win a lot of ugly games on the road. Sometimes you just be like, okay, we scored more points than the other team. Cool, let's get out of here.
Anything basketball recruiting wise popping on your end?
I know Casey's going to be on later this afternoon or later this morning. He'll probably have a lot more on that. He's talked to a few of our recruits, but I know Cannon Catchings, he had a video that kind of went viral yesterday on Twitter, and I am excited to get this kid. He is going to be a special player for Purdue. I wish we could have him come in this year because he has some great athleticism. He's a really good scorer. I watched him play last year at Kokomo against Flory Badunga, and I believe he scored 38 points against Kokomo, a team that went to the state championship game, and he made it look easy. It was called one of the most impressive performances by a visiting player at Kokomo in Memorial Gym history, and that's high praise from a lot of Kokomo fans and everything. So I think he's going to be really, really good. I'd love to see him come in now. Just kind of waiting for that day that he can officially sign. I don't think there's any chance that we're going to lose him as a recruit. But once he signs and makes it official, that's when the excitement just kind of goes up another notch to see him play.
Yeah, he is. I would say that's probably the most dynamic recruit Purdue is pulling in.
Yeah, and Miles Colvin has got a lot of athleticism, and people are high on him coming in this season as a true freshman. But I think Catchings is the level above him, and Catchings may even be at that Jaden Ivey level. I think he's got more hype than Ivey did coming out of school. Obviously, Ivey just really exploded in his 2 years at Purdue, became a lottery pick and everything, but Catchings to me is a higher prospect than Ivey was as a guard coming out of high school. And I think he's going to be really, really solid for this team.
If things go well for Indiana, it will be Caden Catchings versus Liam McNeely at that same spot because they are the same type players, both 6'8", big guys or wing guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how because it's that time of year. Just like Halloween rolling around, baby. It's trick or treat time. It's trick or treat time for all these guys. What do you got coming up this weekend? Go ahead.
I'll be up at the game tomorrow. Our whole staff will be there covering it, and then I think he's got some really good stuff he has put out this week regarding the start of practice for Purdue basketball. Talking to Matt Painter, definitely go check that out at boilerupload.com. He's done a great job for us, and we're about 40 days from basketball season, for better or worse. So I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, March is still there.
Trust me, I think both Indiana and Purdue fans are more than ready for basketball.
Yeah, we always are. That's how it is, but that's how it's supposed to be in Indiana. Football's the distraction until basketball, and then the two biggest days in the state are when Indiana and Purdue play each other in basketball.
We've got more coming up. Thanks a lot, Travis. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Have a good weekend, my friend.
Thanks, you too.
You bet. We've got more coming up in the next hour. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star is going to join us. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload as well. We will talk recruiting all the way around. And this weekend's college football schedule across the board. Much more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Don't forget, everybody, go to the college pick'em. Get your picks in. I got mine. Oh, my.
Oh, my gosh. All right, Jim. We go live when you're ready here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday, September 28th, the last Friday of the month. Hope everybody has had a great week, ready for the weekend. Fred pointing out the Reds need to sweep the Cards this weekend. What are the chances of that? Man, they had the easiest road for a team to make the playoffs. But I mean, how much can you complain about them? They were a young team. I never dreamed that they were going to be in a position to make the playoffs, much less lead the division at one time, which they did. Winning those 12 games in a row, that was a pretty cool feat. But gave us some hope. Sometimes that's the worst thing you can have is hope. Mercy my. But we'll see how that turns out. When does that series start today? I'm looking around. We've got too many windows open here. But yeah, the Cardinals are the worst team in the division, which puts them as one of the worst teams in baseball. But that doesn't matter. The Reds lost a series against the Cardinals like a week ago at home, thereabouts. They also had a chance with Pittsburgh. They were leading Pittsburgh 9-0 and lost. That kind of, I can't imagine what that does to a team. What that just, oh my gosh, that's a kick in the you know what, man. I mean, it's just got to take a lot out of you. The Braves sweep the Cubs. So they keep getting help, but they can't help themselves. So what are you going to do? Make sure you get your picks in for the college pick'em, like I said, for ISB this weekend. I've got mine in. Hopefully I can continue doing a little bit better. I think that with Andrew leading that, you get over to that. As a matter of fact, groups, pull that up and pull our group up. Yes, it is Andrew. Saw him just 2 nights ago. Last night? What is today? Today's Friday. So 2 nights ago, maybe. Or maybe it was last night. I can't remember. He loves to win at trivia. Big winner. But you can go see Dr. Jones, as a matter of fact, at Dr. Tarver's office. I need to get in there to see him ASAP. But other than Andrew, you've got Justin up there at the top. Just a game separating Andrew and Justin B. And then Tater, Ology and a group, Caleb, Mark, and Bill right behind them. So 2 games just separating that whole group. So you can see how it changed. But Andrew, I need to start letting you do some betting for me, man. That would not be a bad idea. 99.9% win percentage. 33-7 on the season. His week 1, 70%. Not a great start. Goes to 80%, 80%, and then a 100% week last week. But also, Taterology had a 100% last week, and that was after going 50% the week before. So it can be done. I had that 50% week, but I have not had a 100%er yet. So I'd sure like to. Absolutely. What games are you looking forward to this weekend on the college football docket? And don't forget NASCAR coming back to the Oval at Indianapolis next year as the Brickyard 400 returns. So I think that's going to be better. I like that. Anyway, it's road races are cool, but not for NASCAR at Indy. But a lot of games this weekend on tap on the college football slate. Tonight, 4 games to watch, peoples. 4. Louisville at North Carolina State on ESPN. Here's a good game. Number 10, Utah at number 19, Oregon State, who lost to Washington State last week. Then you have Louisiana Tech going to El Paso to visit UTEP and Cincinnati on the Trail of Tears to Brigham Young. But tomorrow, Penn State travels to Northwestern, USC. Now, how is this? How in the world USC is playing Colorado tomorrow at noon? Is that not a 9 a.m. start for them? Or a 10 a.m. start for them? Or is that 12 their time? Because it's not specifying. They usually show them all at under the same time zone. And if that is indeed a noon start time for USC at Colorado, that's a 10 a.m. start. So they're going to have a 10 a.m. start against USC, and they had a 8:30 p.m. start against Colorado State. That's nuts. Man, that's an awfully big game to put it at that time. But that's a huge, well, it's not a really huge game. USC's probably another 21-point favorite on that game. And Travis Hunter not playing in that for Colorado. So Florida travels to Kentucky. That's a tricky one. Who you got? Really? Florida looked great in upsetting Tennessee at home, but don't be afraid of Kentucky on the upset on this. And as a matter of fact, upset nothing. I think as far as the spread goes, it's not that they're not that far apart. I'll have to pull that up. But Texas A&M and Arkansas, that's another game that Texas A&M, they're also a program that they're not happy with the money they have spent. They're having buyer's remorse, I think. Not only are they paying Jimbo Fisher $9.5 million a year or whatever he's making in that neighborhood, Bobby Petrino is not working for cheap, baby. So they got both of those guys on the slate. Clemson at Syracuse, that should be a bounce back win for Syracuse. That's at noon on ABC. Trying to find some other good games. Kansas at Texas, 3:30. Now, Texas is like a 14-point favorite in this game, but number 24 Kansas, they're fun. They're fun. And that is an example, people. That is an example of it can happen anywhere. Duke, Kansas and Duke. Okay. Go back 5 years. And I can't even find my mouse, but Kansas's football was right there with Indiana. And they have turned it around. Duke has not ever been known to be a bastion of college football. But Look where they are right now. And that's a small school. So it can be done. I'm so tired of saying it can't be done at Indiana. That is minutia. That is just not accurate. But Kansas is a program that they have Lance Leopold, and he has turned that program into one that went 0-9 in 2020. They went 2-10 the next year, 6-7. They went 6-6 in 2022 with a loss in the Liberty Bowl. But they are fun to watch. But you want to talk about a coach's list that they've had. Man, I'm not going to go back that far. But quickly, you see Turner Gill, who had no success. Charlie Weiss, the former Notre Dame offensive coordinator, who had no success. Les Miles, who was just a joke. And now Lance Leopold. But it can be done. There, you can turn programs around. There are coaches out there that know you have to adjust to today's kids, to today's system. You have to have support from your school without question. But absolutely. And I love watching Kansas. Illinois at Purdue, we spoke of. Wagner. Is that Wagner High School at Rutgers? Just kidding. Let's see. Houston at Texas Tech. That could be kind of interesting. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. LSU at Ole Miss. A lot going on down there at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin and stuff, so we'll keep an eye on that. Oregon, they have an easy game at Stanford. Iowa State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is good, but I think they have to always play above. They have to play at their level, or they're susceptible to being beat. They're one of those teams that cannot slack off at all. Notre Dame traveling to Duke. Notre Dame is a favorite in this game. I like Duke. Wow, Derek, are you kidding me? He is confirming that is a 10 a.m. start. Why? What in the world? I mean, it has to be for TV. And if I was both of those schools, I would give them the birds. I'd give them the double birds, man. Using the pinkies here, but I'd say, nope, that ain't happening. That should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. You should not be putting the players in that situation. That's stupid. I find that just dumb. That's not good. Who does that help? That doesn't help the fans. That doesn't help the players. Nobody. No one. That is a game that should be on later for everyone to get to enjoy. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Thanks, Derek. Terrible planning. Terrible decision. Terrible. It's just terrible. South Carolina goes into Tennessee. That could be a sneaky one. But I'm on Notre Dame Duke. We're going to find out what type of team Notre Dame really is. Duke they're ranked 17th. Notre Dame's 11th, but that's off of being their name, Notre Dame. And if Duke can pull off a win over Notre Dame and have wins over Clemson and Notre Dame at home in this season, how many students go to Duke? That's another question. I have to look that up. Michigan State traveling to Iowa. That should be an easy win for Iowa. That should be a mud bog fest. Charlotte traveling to SMU. Charlotte's been trying to stay with these guys. Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech, West Virginia, TCU, Alabama at Mississippi State.
Duke has 17,000 students to answer your question.
Wow. 17,000 student school. Indiana has what, 46,000? That is, well, it's not like the students are, that has a bearing on your team, but it does show the difference, and it is a difference. It does make a difference. It's crazy. But we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Casey Bartley's going to join us, and we were talking about some college basketball recruiting and more football and whatever else we can finish out with your questions to end the week. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
No way. Notre Dame is, yeah, I was thinking. $17,013 total. That's funny. 30,000 students between the two schools. Oh my God. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. How's Duke? I know that's not his name, but
Duke. Oh, Bruno.
Bruno's
good. He's off in the crate this time.
Oh, man. Basketball recruiting, getting down to the final month, final weeks, maybe, for some of these guys.
Yeah, who are you wanting to talk about?
Is there anybody that Purdue is in on that? Well, Trent Sisley. We'll talk about Trent.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'll talk about Liam McNeely and Indiana's side, but who is anybody that Purdue is like that they're not a lock on, but they're in deep on?
Travis Perry.
Same with, well, that's another Indiana target, but I haven't heard much.
I don't think I use Tom
on the Indiana side.
Purdue was supposed to be pretty locked in on him, but Purdue also has a giant class of 2024.
How many commits do they have for 24?
3 right now. Let me double check. I always blur the years. It's Colvin.
Catchings.
Yeah, sorry, Catchings, not Colvin. God, that big kid. And now for some reason my internet's not working. Go. There we go. Yeah, for basketball, it's Catchings, Burgess, and Jack Benner.
All right, guys. We go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Hope you're having a good day and ready for the weekend. We are. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload joins me now. We can talk about some basketball recruiting. And it is coming down to I don't want to say the wire for some of these guys, but to their own wire. I think a lot of these guys want to get this off their plate for a number of reasons. After all these visits, the calls and all that stuff continue. So it's like, all right, I've got a season, and I'm sure their coaches. I don't know how much the coaches suggest that they make the decision, but they very well might say, hey, man, if you can decide, it's probably better off for you to get that off of your mind so you can focus on your task at hand, which is your season coming up, which that's not far around the corner. So guys like Liam McNeely for Indiana and the various guys that they're chasing. I know Purdue, as you mentioned in the break, Travis Perry, they've already got Purdue already has 3 commitments for 24 and Kanan Catchings, Riley Burgess, and Jack Finner, all in-state commits again. And it's same old for Matt Painter, looks like right now.
Well,
I mean, as far as landing the recruits that in-state recruits that he wants, I didn't mean that in a bad way.
Just as Ohio, if you want to, he's right in that Cincinnati, Kentucky, Indiana region. Yes, it's the same, except when you consider how high of a recruit that Kanan Catchings is. He's over at overtime elite right now. Likely, he's gone all the way up to a 4-star. I would not be surprised if he gets changed to a 5-star at some point during the season.
We'll certainly see. It is a good class, but a solid class. What will Purdue for sure lose? And we haven't seen a lot of transfers out of Purdue. Not a lot of portals.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of portal kids.
Well, right now you have to tentatively say for sure lose, right? Because even the seniors technically could use a COVID year. Jim, I don't think Zach Edey's coming back for a 5th season.
Who's that?
Zach Edey.
Oh, no, he will not be back for a 5th season.
So I don't think he'll be back. Are you talking about who they'll lose next season?
Who do you know? You pretty much know is
Zach Edey's probably not coming back. NBA's in his future. Ethan Morton, it's his 4th year. He could, in theory, come back again. I doubt it, but he also loves Purdue. We'll see how much he gets into the rotation, if he can hold a starting spot this year or not. And then you're not. And then you're looking at the transfer Lance Jones leaving at guard. Purdue is once again a super young team. All the bigs, besides Zach Edey, you're not losing. Your backcourt is sophomores. I think that's thrown a wrench a little bit in Painter's recruiting, especially with like Travis Perry, who is a combo guard who can play both. If you're a guard and you want to play, which guess what? Every guard wants to play. You look at Purdue right now, and they've got 2 true sophomores that started every game last year except for 1. So if you're a young guy, you look at that like, are you going to take their spots? Because, by the way, they also just added Miles Colvin. So I think it's definitely complicated on that end.
Travis Perry, unique because both Indiana and Purdue had recruited him, but this is a kid that's out of Eddyville, Kentucky. And not only do you used to never see Indiana recruit Kentucky. Mike Woodson changed that. He started recruiting various guys, especially a couple of them that played on, I don't know if it's Indiana Elite or I can't remember which AAU team, but they were playing on an Indiana AAU team. Travis Perry being one of those. But this is a kid from Kentucky that is more than likely going to wind up at an Indiana school.
It's possible. Kentucky has offered. I think that changes the arrangement.
Oh, actually, yes.
They offered late.
And they're listed as a 100% on the radar.
Yeah. Purdue definitely got at him early. Travis Perry is a giant Matt Painter fan. I've seen him play 3 or 4 times at this point. He's exactly the mold of what you think of when you think of a Purdue guard. He can play point. He can play off the ball. He's a great facilitator of the basketball while averaging, close to 30 in high school, like big time player, but he's got his choice of schools. And I think he's definitely one. I've not heard personally that IU is strong in the running for him. But that's also colored a lot by the fact that Purdue seemed to be a lock. As I mentioned, I'm not sure with the way Lawyer and Smith has played, does that equation change? Because does he want to sit on the bench for 2 years?
Yeah, the crossover for Indiana and Purdue will not happen until next year. And then that's going to be a completely different story. And we'll get into that in a moment. Right now, Indiana with, I mentioned Purdue already with 3 2024 commitments. Indiana does not have one yet. Alabama didn't have one until yesterday, and they got the big man, Aiden Sherrill, I think is his name. But they're in the final running for Liam McNeely. It's Indiana and Kansas. Again, a battle coming down to those two, which they beat Kansas for Mackenzie Mbako, and have been in the driver's seat for Liam McNeely for a while now by most people. But not only is Bill Self still driving at it, a home visit just the other day. So I don't know. Of course he wants Liam McNeely, but I don't think he wants to lose back-to-back recruiting battles to Indiana either. Not
even more.
Kansas, not that Kansas has anything to worry about, but that's how you get cracks in the armor. That's how you start doing things. And if it's a back-to-back win for Indiana, that says something.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. I know IU fans like to think of themselves like a Kansas program. Not in the same level at this point. And Bill Self is not used to losing many recruiting battles when he really wants it. There's a ton of talent in Kansas, and they're bringing in a ton more.
Yeah, we'll see how that ends up. I'm thinking that is going to happen. That may not happen until November. I'm not sure. The word on Boogie Fland is that is going to come out sometime in October, which that was a 2-horse race as well with Indiana and Kentucky. And boy, a huge battle. That would have been a great feather for Indiana if they would beat, which still can be, beating Kentucky. If they were to beat Kentucky and Kansas and these were head-to-head recruiting battles, man, that would put some feathers in Mike Woodson's cap big time. But Nate Oates has just come roaring out of turn 4 to get himself in position at the wire, and Alabama is now a player in this. And you rarely see that, to where you have two powers that are neck and neck, to see somebody else come up unless it's one of those powers. And Alabama's not that just yet.
I mean, if we're being honest, a race between Kentucky and IU is kind of like two bike races with two deflated tires right now. I mean, sure, Kentucky gets the recruits. IU gets the recruits. They're both a little downward, certainly in March. Nate Oates has done great at Alabama. Ton of NBA talent down there. And I think there's a certain swagger with those SEC schools that kind of stick, especially with, certain kind of really dynamic players.
Yeah, but I don't know. Alabama obviously has a crap ton of money because of the football program. So their NIL program is probably substantial, probably get whatever they need in that regard. But playing in the SEC is while getting better, they're still not the league. The good thing is you also have in Mike Woodson a proven developer of talent. He just had 2 players go into the draft of the NBA. That is of a great importance as well. I'm just saying but just to have that kids look at that. They're like, going, okay, well, they said that about him, and now then boom, there it goes. But that's what the perception is.
Yeah. I mean, more and more, and this has probably always been the case. It's the name on the school is less important than the head coach. And now we're seeing schools able to hold some of the head coaches at Kentucky IU places. So it's not surprising to see, you see Musselman, what he's done. You see Nate Oates at Alabama. These programs are, maybe those coaches get hired away later on, but like right now, those have as much juice in them, especially with how quick everything can happen, communication, the way these schools can change and the money involved. You really kind of have to look at it in this last 5-year window. And at this point, I don't think IU has a big advantage over someone like Alabama at this point. Even Kentucky, the talent is there, obviously, in those 5-star guys, but the way they've filled out the roster, their production, it just hasn't quite meant the same in the last 5 to 10 years.
Well, I think it also depends on the position that you're talking, the current roster construction, and what it is anticipated being, their use. There's so many different things that does go into it, but when it comes down to certain schools, though, I think that it does matter. Not that saying Alabama doesn't come in and beat both of them, and if they do, I talked about a nice feather in Mike Whitson's cap if he's able to beat Kansas and Kentucky. Well, if Nate Oates comes in and beats Indiana and Kentucky, buddy, he's just going to be walking out giving the Eli Manning double birds. He's like, yes, sir, baby. So it's going to be interesting to see this stuff fall. But the funny thing is, though, all of this is made, all of this big deal, all these guys, and next year half of these guys will be transferring someplace.
Yeah, that's definitely something that Matt Painter has constantly
done a hell of a job at. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And he said
maybe the best. He's maybe done the best of any coach in the country, save for Dusty May.
Yeah, according to Painter, the least amount of transfers in and out of the program out of any major school in the country the last however long. Obviously, they do lose Brandon Newman this year, but that was one where it was kind of amazing that he stayed an entire extra year. But that changing landscape definitely matters. And I think that's one where when you look at what Purdue has and you look when the young guys hit that early, to look at this roster, to see Trey Kaufman-Renn stay even with Zach Edey coming back was, to me personally, like, oh. And it's just like every year there's a reminder that
you mean instead of transferring out?
If me personally, I'm Trey Kaufman-Renn, someone who has shown themselves the ability to score 20 plus a game. One of the best offensive big men in the country. I'm not thrilled about playing behind Zach Edey again for another year, but there's no indication like that he wanted to leave or anything, but this is this is what's impressive about Matt Painter, because Trey Kaufman-Renn, IU really wanted him. There's plenty of teams that would have wanted him. He is a absolute post threat, has looked incredible all offseason. The fact that you can get him to buy in to play the 4, not his natural position, to play behind Zach Edey, even though this is his 3rd year in college, like that just really speaks to the job that Matt Painter has done as a person and a coach.
Trey Kaufman-Renn would have been a welcome piece on the current Indiana roster, without question. Now, of course, they wanted him before that, but they had virtually no shot because Archie Miller was here. And so that actually, if Archie Miller had not been in Indiana, Trey Kaufman-Renn would be wearing an IU uniform. I have no doubt about that.
A lot of things would be different if you didn't have 4 years of Archie Miller, right?
You ain't lying, baby.
You might not have lost to Purdue for half a decade in a row.
You ain't lying. Winning makes a huge difference as well. That's probably why Trey Kaufman stuck around. He's like, hey, man, this team has a chance. That team has a chance to be special. There's no question.
He's also, as far as basketball players go, like very, very unique. School is very important for him. Philosophy major. Interesting cat. Very interesting. So I'm actually going to be talking to him next week as we kind of prepare to get into the season. But yeah, it's
the Indiana fans. They love to get on him. Says, when has Kaufman-Renn proved he could score 20 a game?
When he scored 20, what was it, 26 or something when Zach Edey missed one game last season?
Yeah, but he's got to do that on a consistent basis.
It's the only time he's ever gotten the minutes to.
It's going to be interesting. Purdue is set up so well this year, and then we look at Indiana, and they have tons of talent, but there's so many unknowns. I don't know how Mackenzie Mbako is going to play as a freshman. Do not know how Kalel Ware is going. He's not going to be able to guard, say, Zach Edey. I don't know. See, that's all right. Let's Indiana versus Purdue.
That's an unfair. That's an unfair way to put on anyone. No one can guard Zach Edey.
Well,
he didn't miss a shot at the World Cup.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to put like Malik Renew on him just to have the body. But I think because of athletic, if you have Kalel Ware in the game as well, I think that can cause problems for Zach Edey. But you don't have to stop Zach Edey. Zach Edey cannot win a game by himself, as was shown last year. You have to successfully do other things to beat
Jim,
Purdue.
they won 30 games last year.
No. I'm just saying to beat them. If you're going to beat them, there are certain things that you just have to do. And one of those is, well, you have to defend Zach Edey as well as you can, but you're going to have to acknowledge probably not going to stop him. So we've got to do this. And that Indiana was successful in that twice, but that's with freshman guards, and those guys have changed. That task is going to be more difficult this year, but that still is going to be what I think people have to do. They're going to have to beat the other four on a given night, because unless Zach Edey is having just a terrible night, he's not going to have problems getting the ball in from 2 feet away.
Yeah, no, Zach provides Purdue with an incredible floor. We talk about Trey Kaufman-Renn. One of the big things Matt Painter is looking to do is to play him more at the 4 because he feels like his team needs a little more offensive punch. The other thing you look at is Miles Colvin coming in and Camden Heide a little bit, because Purdue really did. They just kind of lost their confidence in their shooting at the end of last season. And they're not hard shots. The one thing about having Edey on the floor, everyone else's job's pretty easy. So to watch them mismanage and not shoot the ball well late, it's not like the offense doesn't get good looks at all times, because Matt Painter's probably the best handful of best architects when it comes to an offense in the country. And then Zach Edey takes so much just attention from everyone that it's going to be a tough task for any team to take away what Purdue wants to do next season.
We'll certainly be looking forward to it, and cannot wait for that action to start. But we've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Joining us, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. We're going to talk some football when we come back, as the weekend is upon us. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Did you see that I sent the email to whoever that station you said you'd forwarded to me?
Oh, no. When did you send it? Did you tag?
Well, no, I should have. I meant to do that too. I will actually, let me do that. Sent. Where are you? Sent. That is there. Good. Nope, that's a different one.
Did you get to watch any of the Ryder Cup this morning?
No, but apparently I didn't miss much.
They're trying to come back.
All right, guys, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday. It's college football weekend, and the last Friday of and weekend of September, for that matter. Jim Coyle with you as always. Also, Casey Bartley from at Boiler Upload. We're going to talk some college football now. Travis was on with us earlier, and the Big Ten is kind of hot garbage. It's weird, and it's weird to say that when you have two of the absolute best teams in all of college football. But other than that, Ohio State, I don't know how good they are yet. I think they'll probably get better, but I don't think that they're in Penn State, Michigan's class. And after that, it's kind of gross. It's unbelievable.
That's kind of been the story of the last few seasons, though, right? The divide between the top of the Big Ten is just separating from the rest.
And that's not good because it's not good for the league, number one. It's not good with the expansion coming in, especially when all four of those programs are better than half of what you already have.
But they're joining. So by that, they're going to get better next year.
That makes the league better in and of itself. Yeah, the league, the Big Ten would have 6 of the top 10 teams, AP top 10 teams right now if this were next year. I know the ifs and buts were candy and nuts. We'd all have a Merry Christmas, but it's crazy. But it's going to be interesting then. But right now, the Big Ten is really just taking a fall that I'm like, wow. Iowa, terrible. Wisconsin, of course, in a lot of that has to. There's been a lot of coaching changeover, specifically in the West. But man, Illinois is taking a fall off.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because like there's so many different programs that are at different stages. And I think like you talk about Iowa, Farron's best days are probably long gone at this point. You can say, but some of those schools are just held hostage by what those coaches used to be. Yep. Obviously, there's no better example right now than that. And then you've got a lot of rebuilding programs. Purdue's rebuilding, obviously, with a new coach this year. Illinois, they lost a lot when Walters left. And then the talent's just not really there at the high end in the Big Ten. At this stage, the top teams, Ohio State, Michigan, all the programs are just eating all that 4 or 5-star talents. And there's not enough to go around. And it's just evident most, Saturdays. Obviously, Northwestern's also rebuilding, lost Fitzgerald over the offseason. So it's just harder now, right? For middling teams to be, up there.
This weekend when Michigan State, and I haven't even mentioned this yet. I forgot to. I had it written down. Former Michigan State coach Mel Tucker planning to sue the Spartans is somebody surprised about that? I'm not. I'm talking to an attorney friend of mine who was actually a journalism major at IU, and he's like, yeah, he's not good. I'm like, he's not walking away empty-handed. I said, I will guarantee you there is no way in Hades he's walking away empty-handed. I go, it doesn't matter if they challenge to drag it out. At some point, it won't be worth it. I said, but they're not getting away with not paying $0. I just cannot see it happening for what the alleged crimes are.
I don't know. I'm
not a lawyer. I just play one on the radio. Play one on the radio.
Here's my thing. I don't think it totally matters a whole bunch because like Michigan State is at a point where everything they've already let slip through with their athletic program, they have to play hardball.
Oh yes,
they can't.
They look. It's such a bad look already. Yeah. Oh,
so like there's no. Pretty much at every point where their athletic program had a chance to make the right decision, they've not done it. So like they really need to stand their ground. Will it result in Tucker, making up some of that $90 million? Maybe. The clause seems pretty simple to me. Don't do things that embarrass the program, and let alone criminally. This is certainly something that embarrasses the program and something he's admitted to. So I don't see the wiggle room out of it, but that's also, stuff that happens way away from. We're not having $90 million meetings. I don't know how those happen.
Well, it's stupidity.
Right.
It's pure stupidity. I mean, even Texas A&M, who I get it, they're an SEC school. But I don't know how many SEC schools are in a position other than, say, Alabama to where they have a $95 million contract, which I could be wrong. I don't know all the contract situations. I know that Dabo's got one of those types. But there are very, very few coaches that have those, that have a buyout. Tom Allen in Indiana has a cushy $20 million buyout. That's why that nothing, for people
It's
that
just
are
business, Jim.
for people, I was there. For people that, for people, that was my writer that who tweeted that out, Mason from the Hoosier.com. But there was no there has to be accountability. And I think, and I've said this earlier in the week, every contract, if you're rebuilding a program, okay, you get 3 years without a caveat. After that, you have win requirements. If you are not winning, you're not succeeding. If you're not succeeding, you're not doing us any good. Therefore, there's no reason for us to be paying you at this level. And if you do not achieve this, you do not get that.
Right.
It's pretty freaking simple. I wish somebody would give me a contract with a buyout, please. That doesn't happen in real life to the rest of us.
Right. I think we've kind of ignored it because like it just makes sense that it takes time. But anytime a school, whether it's a mid-major, a low major, a high major, if they hire someone that turns out to be a really good coach, they turn things around right away. You're not
and Tom Allen had that burst in the beginning, right. But part of that was COVID related. Mm-hmm. Part of it was a convolution of events. Kalen DeBoer, Kane Womack, both of those guys are now head coaches elsewhere.
Right.
But on the Indiana side, I've said I don't want to get on it, but really, really bad hires. Really bad hires.
Yeah, it takes
by the coach.
Right. It takes time to build a program into a juggernaut, but just by hands of being a really good coach, you see a difference within 1 to at most 3 seasons. It's not always as simple as win and loss, but like you can tell when you play, which is why the first season's always really hard, especially with transfers and the way rosters can turn over and who you're losing or not. IU lost a lot of defensive players that year that you're going to struggle the next year. But like with Purdue and Ryan Walters, it's hard to judge by this season because they lost so much. But damn near by the mid of next season, we're going to know whether Walters is actually a good coach or not. But it's really hard to make a quick trigger decision on something with so many moving parts.
Yesterday we had a Zoom with Coach Tom Allen, and after the question that you mentioned, it wasn't even a question that a fan at the show the other night. He just made a quote unquote statement, and it was kind of left there. But I'm like, okay, but I'd like to hear an answer to that question. Actually. So yesterday I asked that very question. Hopefully we can hear this cleanly.
Hey, Coach, I know that it's going to be a challenge going to College Park, a great offense, and just challenging in and of itself. But what do you fans that are frustrated and one that showed his frustration last night at the coaches show? What do you say to the fans that are going through that frustration because it's with either with a certain aspect of the program or whatever? What do you say to those people?
Well, I guess I would say that it's a long season. We're building this team. Every week's a new opportunity, and I think this team has got a lot to it, a lot of character, a lot of resiliency, and we just got to keep getting better, and obviously on both sides of the football, offensively, defensively, special teams as well. And we got to do a great job of growing our team, each week and growing a young quarterback and being able to, allow him and help him be successful and also be able to just say, hey, we got to, get out there and let it rip. and we got to go play, and we got to be able to, give those guys a chance to make those plays. And it's Big Ten football now here on out the rest of the way. And so I'm excited for this opportunity. There's no question. It's always hard on the road, and we are playing a very good football team that's good in all three phases, have athletes all over the place, and they're well coached. So, just to me, it's about a team that's going to play really, really hard. And at the end of the day, we got to find a way to win. And you go to on the road like this, it's going to take all three phases working together. And there's no doubt we got to play complementary football. Each phase has to complement each other, and we got to set each other up. We got to set up our offense. We got to set up our defense for success. And then when we put those situations, we got to capitalize on that. And to me, so the response is, hey, we all got to coach better. I got to coach better. We got to coach better. Got to do a great job getting our guys ready to play, making sure that our guys also take advantage of this moment, which is why the focus is being our best right now and improving right now and being able to be at our best this weekend. So Big Ten football is hard each and every week, and this team needs to get better, and we need to be a continually a football team that's on the rise.
Cool coach speak.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody that thinks he's on the hot seat, that's inaccurate. As I said, it's a $20 million buyout, not going anywhere. And I've not been on here calling for anybody's job. I'm just saying I know that a lot of people have, but when you get people that frustrated, even with a program that has perennially not been good, let's be honest, they've had their moments. It makes no sense. There is no team in the Big Ten that has not had their moment in the sun, and that includes freaking Northwestern. Which part of that I will give because they've been in the Big Ten West. They don't have to go through, even when Michigan State was good, you didn't have to go through Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. And that's a meat grinder. And that's very deflating. I'm going to be honest with you. When you know that you're a mid-level team and you're trying to rise up, that's hard as hell to know you have to do that every year. But anyway, still, you have to get to a point to where you don't have to stay up here, but if you can just go up and then go out, you have the moments. You've got to have the moment, and I'm just not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always frustrating when you're on the downslide. It's been a weird last few years for college sports. As you mentioned, COVID kind of helped IU, but it's tough because. It hurt Michigan, Ohio State, right?
Those types of teams, because Indiana, the year that they damn near won the Big Ten East, and should have, damn it, two fumbles inside the red zone and a pick six at Ohio State, or they beat them, and that would have been hilarious. But yes, I'm sorry I interrupted, but
no, It's weird because Purdue's season last year in football is a giant success. How much of it is just the fact they didn't have to play Ohio State or Michigan? Sometimes it's out of your hand. Sometimes it's getting lucky. I think IU's struggling from a lot of things right now. It doesn't help that their former quarterback is now a Heisman candidate somewhere. So
their other quarterback is the first backup at Michigan.
Yep. So when you're a program that's starved for top end talent as is, and you don't get the most out of them, and then they go do it somewhere else, that's just, bad optics. And it makes you question the process and what is happening. Obviously IU's offense is how many overtimes did it take to score 26 on Akron? Oof. So you see things like that. And when there's an obvious scapegoat, until you kind of cut off that, it's always going to just keep feeding into fans' unhappiness. Purdue fired 4 defensive coordinators in a row, but it's a no-win situation to be a football team in Indiana to begin with. When you're playing Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State all around you, talent's not going to come. So you better hope you get a coach that either has an identity that is foolproof despite talent. And I think we're seeing less and less of that in college football. And then you have to hit on a quarterback. and there's just not that many around. And if they are, they're the third string quarterback, at Alabama is going to be more talented than the starter at a lot of major conferences at this point.
Right, for a year, and then that
Right.
guy's gonna, and then
Right.
he's
And
going
you
to
have to
find
hit on him.
himself. Then he's going to find himself a starting job someplace else.
Right.
That has been a good thing for college football. I think that's why teams like Kansas has been Kansas in the last. Man, they're fun to watch. They put up points. They're only a 14-point underdog at Texas. Kansas is like the second worst football program in the history of Division I football.
Yeah,
but it can be done. It can be done. But I don't want to sit here like I have the answers. Like I know it all. I don't. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's things you don't know about. There's probably some handcuffs that we haven't talked about. Difficulties. It is difficult, but he had a culture, and it's kind of because when you rely on the transfer portal the way Indiana is now, I don't know how you build culture.
Yeah,
because what do you got to indoctrinate these guys every year? They're like, I don't have time. I got to play. So I think it's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah, especially, you're limiting yourself because like all of a sudden now you're playing guys who have 2 months in a system, 3 months in a system, 4 months in a system. And it's going to take some time. And by the time they've got stuff figured out, they're already walking out the door again because they're done. Careers.
Well, and defensive coordinators have been the key for at Indiana. If they have good coordinators, they have a shot to be good. And again, God, I don't want to sit here and be negative, just be negative. But I mean, you brought in Walt Bell, who just went 2-23 as a head coach at UMass. I mean,
powerhouse.
Who was beating down his door?
It is a weird hire. And it's so hard to know where credit lies with coordinators when you're picking them from another school. Because, like, how much is that already the program? Like, Alabama's defense is going to be great regardless of who the coordinator is. Because Nick Saban is one of the best defensive minds ever. So where does that credit lie in those small programs? Is it with the head coach, with the coordinators? Is it reasonable to expect our ADs to be that smart when it comes to choosing those, or is it all head coach decision? Like, it's really tough to get right guys. I mean,
I think that's been a problem with some ADs is they have become too much of business people instead of actual ADs. The business aspect should be left to business people. Indiana has the Kelly School here, one of the top business schools in the United States. Every contract should come out of that school. Every stinking contract from now on should come from the Kelly School of Business, and that's it. Nobody who's I think that's how you get in trouble. You give things. You got to stop giving things up. You can't just give things away anymore.
The only issue is,
the
only issue is just IU football. Who are they going to bring in unless they overpay?
Well, that's another thing. You've got to reach up to. You got to reach into the wallet. We'll certainly find out. But man, looking forward to a fun college weekend of football games. We'll see if Indiana can go down to Maryland and pull the upset. I've said they have the talent to win a lot of these games, and this is a game that they could, but it is going to be tough because it's on the road. Purdue is at home against Illinois. That is going to be still a challenge, but possibly an opportunity for Purdue to get their first conference win of the season as well. Thanks to Casey. Appreciate you, brother, for being with us here today. Look forward to it again next week. And thanks to Zach was not able to make it today. Travis, also from Matt Boiler Upload. Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. Thanks to you guys most of all. Without you, we have no reason to be here. And for RC, for keeping us between the white lines. Until Monday. I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.